Welcome back to another exciting episode of Iron Therapy. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined, as always, by our RX Muscle staff registered psychotherapist, Lesley Timbol. Welcome, Lesley. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Dave.
Today, we are going to do a fun show because I love talking about this topic, primarily because I think people assume that if you're a very strict eater, if you will not, engage in certain food types, that there's something wrong with you and that you're dysfunctional. And I think a lot of people feel that way about themselves. And then there's other people that think, well, I shouldn't be that strict and I should be able to eat more relaxed, especially on the holidays or my birthday, and they feel entitled almost to it. And I guess the question that we're going to be bringing up is, when is eating too strict not good? And when is eating too strict very good because you get really good results? Where does the line get blurred?
So for me, it's about goals. So, if not everyone's a bodybuilder, and I appreciate that, but if you're in prep and you get invited to a celebration, like recently it was Canada Day or July 4th, Independence Day for you guys in the US. So if you were invited to some type of gathering and you're in prep, if you know yourself, and this is the thing, I think it's really important to know, first of all, what is your goal? And two, really knowing yourself. So if you're in prep and you know you're being invited to these social events, if you know that you can't be good and stay on track, then don't go. Because then you're sabotaging your goals. But if you know yourself and you're like, you know what? I can be around food. I'm just going to bring my food. I've got my Tupperware. I can measure out all my chicken, my rice, my whatever, and I'll just bring it with me and I don't have a problem with it. Then go.
Right.
So
that's what I would do. I wouldn't miss the function, but I would bring my own food with me because I knew that if I started to eat the food that was there, invariably I was going to eat junk. Okay. Because you can't stop yourself. Matter of fact, I went to this is a true story. This might be the most dysfunctional thing I did. I went to when I was 21 years old, I was dating this girl. She was like 4 years younger than me, and she had a prom. Okay. And I was in college and she had a prom, and I went to the prom with her, and I was dieting for my very first bodybuilding show. So I had no idea of what I was getting myself into. I was like maybe 2 weeks out from the show, I think. And she had this stupid prom she threw up at me at the last minute. I really didn't want to go anyway because I was older, but I said, all right, I'll go. And I try to bring my own food with me. And I remember I ate nothing. I think they actually got me a piece of like fish or something like that at the prom. And everyone was eating and drinking, and I was eating. And I remember I was in the limousine. They had a limo, and I was eating. There was a bag of pretzels there, and I was starving to death. And I was like, and I somehow rationalized to eat this little bit. It was like a little mini bag of pretzels they give you like on an airplane. I felt so guilty, and I probably ruined the whole prom because I didn't want to go anywhere. All I wanted to do was go home, But I kind of played it out like, all right, yeah, this is cool. But I was miserable. I should have just said, you know what, this is going to be my cheat meal, and I should have just had a good time. But I was so regimented in the way I ate, and that was from the very first show I ever did, and it continued on through all my other shows. And it wasn't like I was a starver. I didn't starve myself, and it wasn't like I didn't have cheat meals. I just was very, very strict because I didn't want to leave one little variable to chance where I would maybe not be at my best. And so the question is that dysfunctional, or is that functional for what I was trying to accomplish?
Like I said, for what you're trying to accomplish, you got to be really super strict.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If you want to there's a difference between being a winner and being a champion. So the difference is, to win is to be able to succeed one time.
Right.
To be a champion, it's multiple times. That's more than once. And in order to be a champion, if you look at any of the GOATs, now I'm not even talking about just bodybuilding. It could be any sport or even in business. You have to pay attention to the details. You remember seeing an interview with Jay Cutler, and he was saying how he had to be so detail oriented in what helped him to become to be a champion. He was 4 times. I mean, that's not an easy feat. It's hard enough to win it once, but in order to win it 4 times, he basically had to do a few things. And one of the things he had to do was to really eliminate all distractions. So that might be social events. He didn't talk to people who weren't, let's say, his coach or, people who were helping him train. Like, it was very, very regimented. And the other thing is, the details. it is in the details. The smaller the detail, the better, because it's easy to cover the big stuff. It's the little stuff that does make a difference. You can be 1 point off, and that's the difference between being first and being overall. What would you rather do? Right. So if you want to cross your T's and dot your I's, yeah, you got to be really detail oriented. So no, I don't have an issue with people being really specific, because that's how you become a champion. That's the champion mindset.
Right. And I asked you that question first to make sure that I got that right answer from you, because I didn't know, maybe I was dysfunctional. I didn't realize it. But then now I want to just translate that to some of the people that, that I see, not only just people I work with, but people that approach me and people who maybe are not achieving what they need to achieve, because some people just don't have that ability. They can rationalize, it's my birthday. Not only is it my birthday and I get to eat whatever I want the whole day, but I get to eat whatever I want the whole weekend. I see that.
That can be just,
my family's on vacation, they decided at the last minute to go take this road trip. Well, then I can eat whatever I want. And then they wonder why they don't get results, and it's like, I hate to tell people don't cheat, eat what you want on your vacation because it's a vacation, but you are in the middle of trying to get in the best shape of your life. I mean, it's probably not a good time to go on vacation, but if you are, then you're going to have to just plan to bring the right food, bring protein shakes, bring, bags of almonds or whatever you got to do to stay on that diet. Because if you don't, and you rationalize, hey, everyone else was drinking, I'm going to drink too. Well, guess what? You're going to come back heavier than you left, and then you're going to set yourself back. So if you're not an obsessive person where you can focus and hyper focus on your goals and stick to a diet, even when it rationally doesn't make sense to stick to a diet to any other normal person, then you're probably not going to be a very good bodybuilder.
No, but let's talk about people who want to just be fit. So they don't want to be a bodybuilder, but they want to be fit, and just saying, okay, I want to be able to enjoy, whether it's my birthday, going on a vacation, whether it's a holiday. How can they enjoy holidays or their birthday or whatever it might be and still stay on track? The idea is you don't have to be 100%, but if you want to stay on track, and again, this is for people who are not competing. If you want to stay on your fitness goals, it's being able to say, how do I be able to maybe enjoy? So let's say you're going on a weekend extravaganza with a bunch of friends. What are you going to do 2 weeks before that, leading up to that, as far as your eating, as far as your workouts, whether it's training, your cardio, to help prepare you for this? Now, this doesn't mean on that weekend you get to eat whatever you want. Let's say it's 3 days. No, it might be saying, you know what, give yourself, whatever you want on a Friday night. And I usually say, Dave, if you're going to have a cheat in the evening versus in the morning.
Absolutely.
Just because it's really hard. I mean, maybe there's some people that can do it. I found it was easier for me if I'm allowed to cheat, to do it in the evening, because if I have it in the morning, it's really hard to stay clean the rest of the day.
Right. Or you miss a lot of meals because you're so full from the cheat meal and then you get starving at night and you wind up cheating again. So yeah, I always say the night is the best time to do it too.
But I mean, to saying, there's nothing wrong with if you want to do a cheat Friday, a cheat Saturday, a cheat Sunday, but you plan the 2 weeks beforehand, and you plan to stay on track the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday leading up to the dinners. You plan, what are your workouts going to be? I don't care where you are, whether there's a gym or not, you can still work out, because there's body weight workouts.
Here's the problem, Lesley. The person, let's say, wants to get in shape by the end of the summer, say, okay? And they have like 6 weekends planned that they're going away over the summer. You can't cheat on all 6 weekends, because you're going to never, at the end of the summer, because what happens is these people, then they get frustrated because they come back and they're 10 pounds heavier and they look terrible because they've been drinking the whole weekend or something like that and eating bad food. And then what happens? They just give up. And then they half-ass the diet. And then before you know it, you're not getting updates from them anymore because they're not sticking to it. So a lot of times cheating, for a whole weekend, other than the one meal that you would plan, or even if you plan one meal per day for 2 days in a row, something like that, it could lead to disastrous results. Like, in other words, you can't allow your body, once you get out of that zone where, you're so focused and now you're eating whatever you want with your friends, you've lost it at that point. And you cannot expect to recover from doing that every other weekend throughout the entire summer.
So it's trying to say, okay, if you do have plans every weekend, plan, what are you going to do? And like you said, if you need to bring your protein powder in a little, in a cup, in a shaker cup. And, you do what you have to do. You bring your food with you, or you scout out, if you know where you're going to be, where are the healthier food choices in that area.
Listen to me. I'm going to tell you this is how militant I was. And this was toward the ends of my career when I was always super lean. We went to one weekend, I went to the Hamptons. Okay. The Hamptons is like a big place on Long Island. People hang out, Neptunes, everyone's drinking and doing drugs and but it was during the summer. It was a big weekend and I wanted to go with everyone. So we drove over there and, I ate before I went in my meal because I had I think it was the USA Championships I had coming up that year. And I'm hanging out the whole day and like 3 hours passed. I got to eat now. And I really didn't plan because I didn't know how long these guys wanted to stay there. And I did have some protein powder in the car. I didn't want to go out. And they had like a grill there where they were making food. And they were making like, chicken fingers and stuff like that. But they were making burgers. And you know what? I literally ordered like 3 burger patties, which I figured was about maybe 8 or 9 ounces of protein. I patted them dry with napkins and I just ate them plain. And that was it. And I had a Diet Coke with that. And you know what? It was the most delicious meal I've ever had. And I stuck to the diet because it was just protein and fat, in there. And you know what? I figured later I'll get, whatever I had to, make up for whatever I missed or something like that. And I felt good that I didn't cheat on the diet. You know what I mean? And everyone's like, just have some French fries. Look how ripped you are. And they were right. Probably if I would have eaten the French fries, it wouldn't have mattered because I had a crazy metabolism. But it was the mental part of it. I always found that if you give in mentally, it allows you to give in other areas too. And so I think it's important to stay mentally strong and to plan everything that you do. If you want to have the perfect results, if you don't care and hey, I'm all right. If I'm not the most ripped guy on stage, then that's great. But I never wanted an excuse when I got on stage to say I could have been better. So if you feel that way, then never rationalize you can eat whatever you want. That's just not acceptable. And it's not dysfunctional because like you said in the beginning, it's for a goal. There's a reason you're doing this. It's not like you're just doing it because you have an eating disorder and you can't control yourself. Because if there was no show you were dieting for, you would eat all that food and there wouldn't be a problem. So don't confuse eating disordered behavior with very regimented eating. I think that's a big distinction we need to make.
Absolutely. Now, Dave, you're blessed that you're mentally strong, but there's going to be some people out there that are watching this that are like, you know what? I'm one of those people that, that have a hard time sticking on plan, especially when I go out to parties or whatever. So for people like that, they're like, well, how do I become mentally strong? I'm not mentally strong. How do I get there? So I want you guys to consider that the mind is like a muscle. You got to train it.
Yeah.
So take your weakest body part, like whether it's your calves, your triceps, whatever. How do you build those up? It takes time. It takes repetition. That's what this mental piece, what I do is the mental game piece. But, to become mentally strong, if you're not already mentally strong, it doesn't mean you can't develop it. It takes practice. Yeah. And it takes a lot of diligence. Does it mean it's going to be perfect or you're going to get it right away? No, it takes time. You're going to make mistakes, but you get back on the horse, you keep trying. And you will build that mental muscle, your mind, with a lot of practice, with a lot of self-restraint.
When I first started eating like so regimented and training as a bodybuilder, like I was getting ready for the Olympia, I looked like shit. I didn't even look good. But it was because I kept repetitively repeating the same, eat, train, sleep, eat, train, sleep. And eventually, and I was growing. I knew I was putting muscle on. It just didn't look like it. But I saw the scale moving up. So eventually I got to a point where I put on a lot of muscle and I looked good. And people wanted to know, well, what the hell did you do? Well, no one cared what I did when I looked like shit, at least in my mind. They cared once I achieved the goal, but it took me a couple of years before I achieved that goal. If I had just given up and done whatever I wanted, I would have never gotten to that point. So it's a building process. Now, someone asked a question, interesting. Should Hunter Labrada eat more whole foods in his diet, less shakes in the off season for bulking? And I don't know if this is relevant to this topic we're talking about, but it is relevant in the sense it's, everyone does something for a reason. Obviously, Hunter he can't eat enough food physically because he's got a really fast metabolism and he doesn't want to miss meals. So he substitutes with shakes. And you know what? I did that back in the day too. I drink a lot of shakes because there's only so much food you can put into your stomach. After a while, you're just not hungry anymore. And rather than miss a meal, I would absolutely gulp down a shake. I would never, ever miss a meal, no matter how unhungry I was. And I'm sure that's exactly what he does too.
And I think it's not just the quantity of food. I think I remember reading on something with Hunter that he has a lot of digestive issues. So for him to eat food, like what he'll do is he'll blend a lot of his food. So I think he'll actually blend his chicken. And I don't know if it's rice too.
Everyone has digestive issues. Yeah, everyone has digestive issues when you're eating, 8,000 calories a day.
But I think it's more like some people more so than others. And I think, from what I remember seeing when I watched some podcasts with Hunter in it, he is particularly more there's something in his digestive system. I don't know the details, but he has a really hard time. That's why he has to liquefy a lot of his food, but then he still gets the nutrients. Right. Now, for a lot of people watching this, I'm not recommending you do that unless you have some severe digestive issues. But if you do, certainly I would see somebody to get that checked out. I mean, whether it be digestive enzymes or something a little bit more than that, could be something more than that. But, it's always get checked out. But if you can get most of your nutrients from whole foods, that's ideal. Because normally I wouldn't recommend more than, let's say, 2 shakes a day, generally speaking.
Lesley, you know what? Try to eat a chicken breast and rice when you're not hungry. It doesn't go down. And that's why these guys drink it. You know what? Women and men are completely different in off-season scenario, because women, I've never seen every girlfriend I ever had who competed, they always it seemed like they could out eat me, because they always knew that if they ate too much, they got fat almost. There's very few women that could eat whatever they want and they just don't gain any weight. Whereas guys, we get to a point where we just can't eat enough food and still gain weight. So it's like, well, I know I have to eat more, but I'm just not hungry. I just cannot put another morsel of food down. So you start pouring shakes down your throat. I try to blend food. Once I try to blend tuna, and what else? I blended tuna and something with tuna fish, like 2 cans of tuna and something else. I heard Gary Stridham did it. I almost puked, and believe me, I could pour anything down my throat. And I tried the chicken blend, and it was disgusting too. But the only thing I could blend and drink was the eggs for some reason. Whole eggs and oatmeal seemed to go down a little better, but it was like pouring plaster down your throat. I mean, it just laid in your stomach, but at least I knew I got the calories down, and I could always swallow something, in a drink form. But if you have to chew and you're really not that hungry, you can't get the food down. I'm telling you. That's why I used a lot of McDonald's too. And I think Hunter actually said that he used a lot of, burgers and fries and stuff like that too, because it goes down easy, but it's a very dense calorie food. So you're getting a lot more, I don't know if you're getting a lot more nutrients, but you're getting a lot more macros in a smaller package, so to speak.
You're right. I can't relate. Whether I'm in prep or I'm off season, I can really eat if I was able to.
Like I said, most women are in your situation. They don't. It's because what it is. You go to dinner. And here's a good example. All right, a guy and a girl dating, both competing. Okay, off season, they're both eating 6 times a day. The guy's eating 8 ounces of chicken or whatever. She's eating 6 ounces of chicken. He weighs double what she weighs. They're almost eating the same food, but yet he's double what she weighs. And of course, he needs a lot more food than she does. And she probably needs less food than she's eating. So women get fat in the off season. They tend to, if they start eating too much. And men don't gain weight because they're just not eating enough food. So if I'm 280 pounds and you're 140 pounds, I should be eating almost double what you're eating. But that never seems to be the situation. You know what I mean?
Very true.
I dated this girl. She was very, I was actually married before, earlier in my life. And she could sock down, 6-8 ounces of protein, 5 to 6 times a day.
Oh yeah.
Easily. And I'm like, I don't know how she's eating this much food, but she could. But getting back to the dysfunctional eating, I think that you can't allow the good opinion of others, your friends, your family, to tell you there's something wrong with you because you don't want to eat holiday dinners, or you don't want to go out, to a sloppy restaurant for your birthday dinner. You want to go to sushi, or you want to go to like a steak, because some people just don't understand. They think that, hey, it's birthday, it's holiday, it's Christmas. Right. I gotta eat everything in sight. I gotta eat all the mashed potatoes and then gravy and stuff. I never ate that. I didn't like that type of food. I wanted to eat, cleaner foods and just larger quantities of it, because I knew that's what was going to build muscle,
You don't like mashed potatoes and gravy?
You know what? The reason I love mashed potatoes the way they taste, but the milk in there would destroy my stomach because I was lactose intolerant. And I wasn't. No, I'm not a gravy. I don't like to pour tons of sauces all over my food. I find that food is tasty enough. I don't need to like drown it in like in all kinds of It's like the person who has like the ice cream sundae and they put so much like strawberry toppings on. I'm like, you can't even taste the ice cream anymore. I just want the vanilla ice cream. I like the taste of ice cream. I don't need to slather it and stuff like that. And I think that that's just the way I am. But people think there's something wrong with that. And what I'm saying is don't allow other people to dictate what you know is the right thing to do.
And that's the thing, especially the problem is that it's one thing to say no to friends, but when you've got family around and they're judging you as far as, what you were saying about, oh, you're skinny enough, or, put some meat on your bones, or, you don't need it's just one meal. It's not going to hurt you. It's just one meal. And you get this pressure. Mm-hmm. And you get it from usually more than one family member, then, it's kind of like, maybe you don't want to be around them. And you may not be able to. Like there were times that I could not be around certain family members because the negative talk that was going on constantly was just, it was toxic. It was purely toxic.
You know me. I just debated everyone on it. Until I won the argument, that type of thing. Like it didn't matter. Like I would just explain my whole mindset to people, and that people just could, how do you argue with that? I mean, you're like, it's like, well,
my mother could, Dave. Let me tell you.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, it wasn't like I didn't look like I was a starving Ethiopian, So my grandma, even my Italian grandmother, she's like, you know what? Tell me how to make the food, and she would make me. Italian grandmothers will make 16 different meals for 16 different people. She didn't care. She would just make me mine plain, and she would make it with, and it still tasted great, even without all the extra accoutrements on it. It still tastes great. You know what I want people to do is that in the comments below, I want you to tell us about your most dysfunctional eating that you've ever done. Tell us about an event you skipped or an event you were at and you brought your own food that people thought you were absolutely nuts. I want to hear. I don't usually read the comments, but for this, I want to read the comments. I know people have told me some very funny stories out there about situations that they've had, whether it be in other countries or on vacation or with their family. And it's just, it is what it is. If you want to be the best, you have to be regimented. It's not dysfunctional. That's the take-home message.
Agreed. If anything, it can become dysfunctional when you buy into it. Like I said, you don't want to give up your goals just to make other people happy. That would be dysfunctional because these are your goals. They're not their goals. They can do whatever they want. That's fine, whatever they choose. But when you want to be held, what I call is self-respect versus other respect. Self-respect is being able to say, stick to your goals. I mean, if you change your goal, that's different. But if you want to stay on track with your goals, have respect for what you want and where you're going in life versus what other people are telling you that you should be doing.
I never drank a sip of alcohol. The whole first half or 2/3 of my bodybuilding career. I mean, if I'm talking, I wouldn't have a sip of it if I went out to a club and very rarely did I ever go out to a club. But if I went out to a party, everyone was drinking and I was miserable and I would not. I don't know. I just wouldn't do it. I said something in my head. I remember one of my mentors. He was a doctor. He said, "I'd rather have my kids take steroids than drink alcohol. Alcohol destroys muscle." And it always stuck in my head. I'm like, I'm not going to drink. I don't want to lose any muscle. I was the kind of guy that if I went more than an hour and a half or 2 hours without eating, I thought I was losing muscle because I was becoming catabolic. So I certainly wasn't going to drink any alcohol. That's just the way I was, but that's why I got very good results because I was that strict. Now, Lesley's going to be going over to her YouTube channel and continuing the conversation. Is that true? Today you have a live? Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the YouTube channel again? I always forget.
If you go to my Instagram, so it's Lesley T_mental_iron.
Right.
In my, if you click on that, you'll see my YouTube link. So head over there and I'll be there in about 5 minutes. Okay. And we can talk about if you have some kind of dysfunctional eating or situations, we can talk about, how you, or even upcoming situations. I can help you plan for those.
Absolutely. Well, good conversation. Hopefully you have a good week planned, Lesley. How's dieting going for you?
Oh, let me tell you, 70 grams of rice doesn't go very far. I get that twice a day. That's
When's your show?
So October 1st. So just under 12 weeks now.
So in another like 8 weeks, you'll be getting cranky and stuff like that. And I can break.
Oh yeah, just have me on the show and it's like, this is prime. You're seeing me happy right now, so you'll see my transformation of my mood.
Right. But you'll look really good, so that's all that really matters, right?
There you go. There you go.
Get some bicep shots like Lee Priest does. All right, head over to Lesley's Instagram and you can get her a link to the YouTube channel. She'll be going live in a few minutes. For now, I'm Dave Palumbo with Lesley Timbol. We will see you again next week.
Bye, guys.